We do have microphones if you want to boost the audio a bit. Welcome to everybody at the Citrus Center. As Ray said, I'm John de Graca, I'm the director here. And a special welcome to our out-of-state visitors who've flown in yesterday from Florida and California. Good to have you here, and we're looking forward to your presentations and to the discussions. As Ray said, we want this informal, open discussion. Give us your feedback and ask lots of questions. The discovery of HLB in January this year changed the lives for everybody here in citriculture in Texas. And we know from the experiences of other areas where the disease has become endemic that to control this disease, you need to look at 4 legs of a table. Some people talk about 3 legs of a stool, but here at the Citrus Center and amongst others we've spoken to, we think there are 4 legs. The one is to control the vector. This is spreading the disease, so you have to have an effective control strategy to keep its population down as low as possible. Secondly, we've got to remove sources of infection. Thirdly, maintain excellent tree health. Tree nutrition, control other diseases, and we may hear from Dr. Graham this morning about the role Phytophthora is probably playing in this. And fourthly, and this is the one that we're going to talk about today, is to ensure that new orchards are planted with disease-free trees. Now, Ray asked if I'd just give an update. I don't have a slide presentation, but just to tell you what our present situation of HLB, as far as we can tell, it's a bit of good news, but there's always the caveat there that things could get worse. So far, the only positive confirmed trees are still in the 2 orchards, 1 sweet orange, 1 grapefruit in San Juan. They're separated by a road. There are about, I think, 71 trees in all in those 2 orchards. More recently, we had the first confirmation of an infected tree in a residential property, and it's right next to the orchards. It's on Stewart Road, and it's a little further than here to the back of the room, but it's very close. It's an old tree, and we suspect that it got infected from psyllids coming from the orchard. We have tested, both in the quarantine area and valley-wide since January the 13th, nearly 5,000 psyllid samples. Now, if you think that's 4 up to 5 psyllids per sample, we're looking at nearly 20,000 psyllids that have been ground up and had their DNA extracted, and about nearly 3,000 plant tissue samples. So no further even suspect plant samples. With the psyllids, there's a little bit of lack of clarity here because of which tests were done. The first time we got psyllid samples, can you not hear me? Yeah. Let me turn this thing on. Sorry, it's got a little button somewhere. Nope. Oh. Sorry. Get there. Better. The first 3 psyllid samples that we suspect as being positive were sent to another lab that USDA contracts at Kansas State, and they tested them and designated them as positive. Subsequent samples that were in the CT range that could be positive and ones that were just outside the range were sent to Beltsville, and they were calling those all inconclusive. And the reason they said, even for ones with the apparent high titer with the low CT score, they could not get a sequence to match with the bacterium. So we don't know if the original 3 were truly positive or still in the inconclusive range. But what we did this past week is we took all of these samples, about a dozen of them, and we mapped them out. I know George Nash from USDA has just the ones with the low CT scores. Most of them are from within the quarantine zone. The others seem to be located close to the expressway, Military Highway, and then the 2 northbound highways, a couple on near 77 and 1 in Edinburgh near 281. That to me is significant. The fact that most of them are within the quarantine zone suggests that most, if not all, are carrying Liberobacter, and some of the outliers might indicate that infective psyllids perhaps on nursery plants have been moved. So the psyllid might be the actual vector, but we suspect the 2-legged vector, the person transporting infected plants or plants with infected psyllids, are playing a major role. And that's why today's meeting is so important. So The first step then, in this fourth leg of the table, is to have a source of disease-free trees. And that is the Citrus Center's responsibility in Texas. We were designated by TDA and the industry to start this program in the late 1990s. There's a state law backing it. And in the pre-HLB era, all our foundation trees and all our increased trees were out in the open. The discovery of HLB in Florida in 2005 started to change life for us, and we could argue we didn't move quick enough, but what's happened has happened. But we did start to make plans, and in 2008 we built a screenhouse in the fenced area and placed potted trees of our main varieties to form a protected collection of foundation trees. Then in 2008, so we've had trees of the main varieties under screen for 4 years. They've been tested twice a year for HLB, and as well as CTV and other pathogens. Then we went out and got a grant in to the Department of Commerce Economic Development Administration for a screenhouse to put all our future increased trees in. We got that money, and the structure was completed last year. And along the way, we also got some money to renovate a greenhouse in Stephenville at the AgriLife Center up there. Stephenville's near Dallas, so it's well outside the citrus zone. And we have a backup collection of foundation trees up there. We also try to get plans underway to get a more secure greenhouse for our foundation trees in the valley with the development of the positive pressure greenhouse in California. And those of you who've been here will know we had quite an interesting year. Very generous donation from the industry to pay for this based on estimates we got from the industry, from the greenhouse industry. But we ran into a lot of red tape. People at the university tried to help us, but what we learned is some companies, when they get a bid from the university and they know the industry is behind it, up their prices a little bit. We couldn't get quotes even for increasing the space of our screenhouse within the amount that was offered by industry. So there was nothing industry did wrong. We thank you again for your generous support. So what we're doing now is using some of that greenhouse space, screenhouse space from the EDA structure for foundation trees. Traditionally, Texas citrus nurseries have been raised in open ground, as we had for the increased trees. And we know from other parts of the world that no matter how good you are at controlling psyllids, you'll never kill all of them. Even if you don't see a psyllid, there are a couple that are coming in, and if they're bringing in HLB, you'll get infected trees in the nursery, and then those go out to the growers. So the only way of having a guaranteed HLB-free tree is to grow it under screen from budroot sources that are under screen. We have some visitors from Florida here. We've heard from some of you guys before, and we're looking forward again for your experiences. We can learn a lot from you, what to do and what not to do. We appreciate your willingness to share your experiences with us. In Florida, a committee of nursemen and growers was formed, and they chose an independent chairman. And they met to draw up recommendations of how to produce trees in the screening era now. They didn't want to wait for the state of Florida to come up with regulations and hand them down to the industry. It was from the industry going up. When they agreed on those, this is what the state of Florida enacted. And we would like to follow that example here in Texas. So in March of this year, with advice from Dr. Graham, who chaired the Florida committee, a committee was formed here, representing both nurseries and industries, and the industry. And we actually moved initially quite quickly, but I think following the Florida example, we saw we could move a bit quicker. And this committee made some decisions. The first was that for the Citrus Center to cover the existing increased trees of the main commercial varieties with a screen structure. The reason this was required was that it's going to take a while for us to get enough increased trees in the new screenhouse to supply the industry's need. And if we could get the present trees covered and then go through 2 rounds of HLB testing, one in fall, one in spring, we would have a supply of budwood in the interim. That has been, structures have been completed, and this fall we will do the first HLB testing on them. Part of the funding came from budwood sales, the rest from the industry. Again, thanks very much. The second request was for a subcommittee to study the Florida and California regulations to see what might be applicable in Texas. That task still needs to be completed. And the third one, and this Ray mentioned just now is perhaps the most significant, that they set themselves an 18-month time frame for requirement to have all our nurseries under screen. This is not the state telling the industry what to do, this is the industry telling itself, with the deadline date then of September the 1st, 2013. So it was 18 months from March, we're now just under 1 year away. And there has been some progress, at least with one nursery. Those are my words of introduction. I'm looking forward to the discussion because what you advise us and come to decisions on, we at the Citrus Centre with our Budwood program can put into effect. And I'm now going to invite Mark Van Ness, who's our Budwood program coordinator, to give us an update of where we are with the Budwood program. I don't think Paul has arrived yet. Paul Heller.
Yes,
right
here.
Oh, yes. Do you want to take a break and we'll hear from the industry?
Sure.
Paul? I think because you're supposed to follow me. You slipped in so quietly, I didn't notice. Do you need the microphone?
I haven't got a lot of comments. Can everybody hear me okay in the back? I'll speak loudly. Just a couple of observations and comments from a grower perspective. I appreciate everybody being here this morning. Obviously, it's a very important time in our industry, and this is a significant change that we're talking about undertaking. But with HLB, it's a critical moment that needs to be addressed. Nobody likes change, but unfortunately, as growers, we face it every day, and we just have to accept it and move forward. As in any case, as growers, every decision we make has an impact on our success or failure as we move down the road. And one of the most important things we do as growers is when we plant that tree, we're starting with something that's healthy and has a maximum potential of generating that revenue, that return we need. We don't have that foundation. Everything that we do downstream of that is going to have a higher probability or likelihood of failure. So starting with a clean, healthy tree is critical to growers, and they've found that to be the case in Florida, obviously. They've learned a lot, and they're ahead of us in that curve. Brazil, the same thing. Everywhere you look now, trees are grown in screen houses, insect-resistant screen houses. HOB is changing how we're having to do things in Texas because with an insect vector, the only way we're going to be able to ensure that healthy tree is to keep psyllids off of it. And the only way we know how to keep psyllids off of it while we're in a nursery situation is to have it in an insect-resistant structure. There's a tremendous cost associated with that, establishing that infrastructure. But as growers, without it, we're not going to get that clean start, and we're not going to have a future. So it's important that we accept what's in front of us, and move forward. And I think there's some positives with moving in the direction we're moving. Jim Graham's going to talk about the Phytophthora relationship. It's a problem here in South Texas, Phytophthora is. This is an opportunity for us to go from a field situation where the probabilities of moving Phytophthora around are greater to a more controlled environment where with good management and good nursery practices, we can eliminate that one pathogen that we probably have been moving around our groves for a long time down here in South Texas. Throw HOB on top of that as well, and the interaction between those two diseases, you just can't live with them both. We do everything we can to try to minimize the movement of that pathogen. Again, I appreciate everybody being here. These are big decisions, big changes we face, but I think if you look at what has happened in other parts of the citrus industry, other areas where they've undergone it, it's been successful. And I think we expect the same thing here in Texas. We just have to have an open mind and work hard at it, and we'll be successful as well. So appreciate y'all being here.
Okay, my name is Mark Van Ness, and I'm kind of a loud talker to begin with, so I'm afraid if I use this, I may blow your ears out. So I'll try to speak up, and if anybody does have any trouble hearing me, let me know. But as Dr. DeGraca said, I'm the Budwood Program Coordinator here for the Budwood certification program, and I just want to take a few minutes and talk a little bit about what Dr. DeGraca and what Paul have already talked a little bit about, and the direction of our Budwood program and where we're going. And one thing is, I have been talking to our friends in Florida and California, our speakers that have graciously consented to come here today and talk to us. One of the themes that I keep hearing over and over again is regarding what the industry does, whatever they put in place. The most important thing is the source and the Budwood program, that the nurseries and the industry can get clean, disease, pathogen-free, true to type Budwood. So that is our responsibility here, and that is what we're working very hard to do. We've come a long way. We still have a long way to go, but we're making significant progress, and I just want to give you a little bit of an update on that. So as Dr. Graca said, this program was started, I said 2000, but it's probably made, what, 1999 or something like that? Yeah, and I think it's worth noting that when this program was started, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but the Citrus Center took the responsibility of overseeing and implementing this program. The Citrus Center is a research and education facility. So this program was something above and beyond what their normal duties and challenges are. So we've done an excellent job for the last 10 years, but now we need to go to that next level. Our program, we've had 98 different citrus varieties, as many, grapefruits, oranges, lemons, limes, and the other assorted citrus varieties. And everything prior to this year was outside. Our foundation block, we had 180 trees outside, and our increase blocks, and we're a little different than the other states, where everything is central, comes from a centralized source here. All of the Budwood comes from our increase trees here. We had upwards of 2,700 different trees, all outside and in the ground. Where we are at today, we have deactivated all unprotected foundation and increase trees. So anything that was outside, we're no longer cutting Budwood off of, and in many cases we've removed the majority of increased trees. We are establishing new foundation trees in our screen house, and we're also we're going to have a combination of in-ground trees in our screen house that Dr. DeGraca mentioned, and we're also going to have quite a number of containerized trees of lower demanded varieties. Some of the ones that we don't get a lot of demand for. We are getting our material that we are increasing and rebuilding our collection from, comes from a combination of Budwood we get from the CCPP in California, as well as foundation trees that have been protected for upwards of 4 years here at screen houses in our Citrus Center, as well as our Stephenville greenhouse collection. In addition, we are, as quickly as possible, trying to propagate new increased trees to be established in our other permanent screen houses. And as Dr. DeGraca said, we have in the interim constructed what we're referring to as screen structures over select key commercial varieties in the existing increase block. So now anything that we cut has been thoroughly tested multiple times and is protected. So in addition, we have upgraded our testing program. We have a very extensive, comprehensive testing program that we took. We modeled somewhat after California and Florida, but made it fit what we needed here in Texas, where we're testing HLB twice a year, CTV annually, and viruses and viroids on a 3 to 5 year basis. And then finally, We have implemented some standard operating procedures that we, our people, can operate with, and also what I like to refer to as emergency action plans, because as Nate Jameson, who's going to talk to us, has said, 99% of the time you're fine. It's that 1% when you have a problem or an emergency that really is the key in how you protect your budwood. So this is a picture of of our structure that was built a year ago with funds from the Economic Development Association, and this is what is going to be our combination of foundation, screen house, and increase screen house. And just to show you, these two bays here, this is divided up into 4 different bays. These 2 bays here are going to be for our permanent foundation trees, and these 2 over here on this side are going to be increased trees. And then this structure that had already been existing, was built a few years ago, is going to be for our containerized foundation trees, as well as rootstock propagation and budding and that sort of thing. Here's just another picture of it. This is the inside. We've already started putting increased trees into the structure. We're doing them in pots. This is modeled after what they do in Florida and California. We feel like we can get more buds per square foot this way as opposed to planting into the ground. So this is something new for us, but we'll see how it goes. And of course we have fertigation, injection. We're fertigating, chemigating on a daily basis as we water. This is what we refer to as the screen structure that we built. And just to go back a couple of pictures, as you can see, these trees here that were once outside, several of them have been removed, and now we have this very large structure that is covering existing increased trees. They've been thoroughly tested, and the objective here is to be able to provide the industry with sufficient quantities of budwood in the interim while we get our permanent structures filled with budwood. So just another different little angle here. It's a pretty good sized structure. Picture of the inside. And one of the things I might mention too is, even though this is under screen and we're doing everything and will be doing everything to ensure that insects stay out of it, we also realize it's a structure that we built. It's not the same as a permanent structure. So therefore we're going to continue to have our spraying program and our pest management program on the inside, even though it's covered. This is just going to add one more layer of protection for us. We've added a fertigation system and rebuilt our drip line irrigation to be able to fertigate, chemigate. This is the older structure that we have that we're going to have containers in. And these are some of the trees that are in there right now. And we're actually, the buds we're harvesting off of these trees we're using to propagate our increase material. These trees have been under shade inside, I should say, for about 4 years, would you say? Yeah. And we're also using this as an area where we're growing our rootstocks and doing our budding and all of that work down there, so it can all be centrally located in that area. This is a picture of our Stephenville greenhouse that Dr. DeGrasse mentioned. This is about 7.5 hours north of here, Stephenville, Texas. We have about 100 different trees, varieties in there, mostly our key commercial varieties and some of the other higher demand varieties there.